Good morning, everyone. My name is Mighty Stream. Today is August the 12th. I'm going to do your Just for Today in a meditation for August the 12th, brought to you by Hope Through Navigation. And this is our Hood Recovery Services. You can reach me at recoveryofhope21@gmail.com. Let's go ahead and get into the reading. It's entitled Enough. Something inside cries, Enough, enough. I have had enough. And then they are ready to take that first and often most difficult step toward dealing with their disease. Have we really had enough? This is the crucial question we must ask ourselves as we prepare to work the first step in Narcotics Anonymous. It doesn't matter whether or not we arrived in NA with our families intact, our careers still working for us, and all the outward appearances of wholeness. All that matters is that we have reached an emotional and spiritual bottom that precludes our return to active addiction. If we have, we will be truly ready to go to any lengths to quit using. When we inventory our powerlessness, we ask ourselves some simple questions. Can I control my use of drugs in any form? What incidents have occurred as a result of my drug use that I didn't want to happen? How is my life unmanageable? Do I believe in my heart that I am an addict? If the answer to these questions lead us to the doors of Narcotics Anonymous, then we are ready to move on to the next step toward a life free from active addiction. If we have truly had enough, then we will be willing to go to any lengths to find recovery. Just for today, I admit that I've had enough. I'm ready to work my first step. I know for many of you listening, you're thinking, of course, I've had enough. I'm here in the program. Yeah, it's easy to say, but it's not easy to, prove or walk it out, depending on what your bottom was, what brought you to Narcotics Anonymous. One might say, yeah, I've had enough. But then you get into the fellowship, you become a member, maybe you even get a sponsor, and you find out that things start to become very comfortable, as far as your outsides, right? The things on the outside, they start to become very comfortable. Your job, your relationship with people, networking. And it gets to the point where you can establish this frame of mind of complacency. So maybe it was enough. Maybe you did have enough. Enough was enough. It got you to the fellowship. But now that you're in the fellowship, you see that no one's going to make you or force you to do anything. There's no laws or rules. We have traditions, but that just protects the group. We don't have any laws or rules. And you certainly don't have to be there unless you want to. If you're there on paper and you're forced to be there, then that's another story. And generally, what happens a lot of times, people, when they get off paper, they leave as well, and they end up back in prison. Um, Jails, institutions, and death is our end, right? If we don't surrender completely. So some people just do it because they have to for a certain amount of time. And then even I find those people that really don't want to be a part of Narcotics Anonymous and that really don't want to work the program, they find different ways to skirt around, um, their agents, their parole and probation agents. They found now, with marijuana being a legal drug for personal recreation use, we're finding even more members are positioning themselves where they use it recreationally, not for medicinal purpose. They use it recreationally. And they just, it's like minor to them. The mind and mood degree that is altered is minor to them. But somehow or another, the guilt that they have or the feeling that they have that they're using um, kind of keeps them away from doing more. And I've seen that sort of consistently with people that, when they first came to the program, that was their biggest issue. They couldn't stop smoking weed. They were addicted to it. They felt they were. They surrendered to it, right? And then with time, as it's become legal, I've seen just two actually um, go back to smoking it every day, and it's because it's legal now, and they can do that. Um, a lot of agents aren't even dropping for alcohol or weed anymore. And I think that in our minds, if it's legal, then it's okay. But in reality, whether or not it's legal has very little to do with whether or not you're an addict. So if you're an addict and you decide that you're going to use certain things recreationally, what you're going to find is that you're still going to encounter some of the same consequences as if you were using crack or heroin, cocaine, um, and so that is because of who you are. It's not because of the drug itself, right? As though the drug itself made a difference. What made the difference was the fact they were addicts. And so I find some people get into the program, but they never do the work. And the reason why they don't actually do the work is because even though they had enough, they found that once they stopped using, they became more comfortable and they just really didn't want to develop the level of self-disclosure and intimacy that's required to do, step work with people, with your sponsor. And if that's you, I just want to say to you that there's better, right? You can have better. You can always turn up the heat on your recovery. There's always more for you to do. If you have a sponsor that you're not connected to or don't like, it's a simple thing to get another sponsor. You have to look or worry so much about hurting people's feelings. People pleasing is never a good thing. Never a good thing. We got that one bad, right? So I am happy to be with you today to discuss this just for today. It's very fundamental, very simple. Have you personally had enough? And it does seem to write into its meditation, that having enough means that you're going to be doing certain things, right? If you haven't had enough, then you are not going to surrender completely and you're not going to be ready to do the work. But in the meantime, regardless of where you find yourself on the spectrum, I would never leave Narcotics Anonymous. I would always use it as a tool in my tool belt, as something that I can lean into when I'm struggling. Some people rather go to church, they clean up and they want to now go to church. And they become, religious zealots, right? And that's okay if that's what you want to do. But do you keep Narcotics Anonymous in your tool belt as a place you can run to when the heat is turned up and you feel like using? Because the church really doesn't have an intimate way of addressing that. Some of them are involved with Celebrate Recovery, but the success of that is somewhat limited. And I just want to say that regardless of what you do, now that you're clean, the main thing is to never pick up the first one, and you'll never have to worry about picking up the last one. So I'm in day 2. Today is my second day from surgery, and I am recovering slowly, but well. And so I'm expecting more energy as time goes on. I thank you for listening, and I will be talking to you tomorrow.